Welcome to MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it seems we spend a lot of time talking to Take Control authors, but that's because, first of all, they're so prolific, and second, they write about topics that we want to know about, that you want to know about, that I want to talk about. And they also tend to write about things that are such high-quality products or services or programs or whatever the focus of the book is. This time, we have Mr. Michael E. Cohen back. His latest effort, and it seems like he and Joe Kissel do a lot of writing, is Take Control of PDFpen 6. Michael, it's great to have you back. I'm always amazed at how much stuff you all put out.
Hi, Chuck. It's good to be back. Actually, Joe is far and away the most prolific. There's a statistical anomaly that right now, I think maybe today, both he and I have the same number of books on the Take Control homepage, but that won't stand. Joe is just going to leave me in the dust so very fast.
I don't know.
And the thing that makes me craziest about Joe is not only does he produce a lot of stuff, but the first draft, because I've edited his work, the first draft stuff he does is better than my final draft, and so I hate him with an all-consuming passion.
All right, well then we won't mention his name again in this show.
Joe's great.
Oh yeah, you know that I think so. Yeah. Well, that's just it, Michael. All the Take Control authors. I mean, that's the fun thing about doing all the interviews with you, is that everybody has that Take Control style that sort of cuts through everything. You don't rewrite manuals, which I love. You just tell me how to use the program or service or approach the topic of the book. It's just a very satisfying experience every time.
Well, I think it's partly because I think we're kind of enthusiasts as much as we are writers. You know, that we actually enjoy the stuff that we're writing about, and we usually pick the topics we want to write about. Often, you know, I've written tech books for other companies, you know, and they'll come, you know, saying, so-and-so needs a book on such and such. And they'll offer in advance, and you go, oh, yeah. And that's work for hire. And on the Take Control side, it's a little bit different. We actually talk about books we want to do and then go ahead and do them ourselves. There's a very close relationship between the publisher and the writer, whereas in very large publishing companies, you get an offer through an agent or something like that, and an acquisition editor contacts you and say, we have this line and we want you to fill this hole in our line. And fine, you can do that. You know, it's like making, you know, any manufactured product, but Take Control is still sort of an artisanal publisher.
And you know, that's a great point. Because I've been involved in some of those things where a publisher will call and say, hey, we need a book on this. Do you know anyone that would be interested? And sometimes I've been able to make a few connections for people, and hopefully they've been satisfactory on both sides. But it is a bit more of an industrial kind of thing as opposed to the approach you just described.
There's nothing wrong with it. I think there's plenty of room for both. But, you know, personally, it's far more satisfying, you know, to work with a bunch of people who care exactly about the topic you're caring about and who all really want to make it better, you know, rather than saying, we've got this product line we need to fill with this or that. So, you know,
Michael,
it's just a lot of fun.
If I had to talk to Windows people for this show, this would be the last edition. So I think I can identify. But let's not go there. Let's talk about our friends at Smile and the new Take Control of PDFpen 6. And I want to get this out there right away because somebody will write if I don't. Smile does help sponsor MacVoices. In fact, they're my longest running sponsor. It's always very much appreciated. That's not why we're here. As you know, we talk to the Take Control authors every chance we get. And Michael, I think you have a similar kind of statement to make about this book. Well, in
this particular case, yeah, Take Control of PDFpen 6 is what we call a bespoke book. I mean, we worked with Smile to write it, you know, and they asked us to. They're sort of sponsoring the book in the sense that they sell it from their site as well as Take Control selling it from theirs as well. So, you know, Smile and Take Control have a sort of close relationship on that. So it is a sponsored book. But also, given who Take Control is, and Adam and Tanya, they don't make deals with people that they don't want to work with anyway. So it's basically, oh, we can work together and we can, you know, kind of help each other out. Cool. 2 wins.
Yeah, and isn't that an interesting way to do business in a world where it seems like everybody just chases the biggest deal, the best deal, the fastest deal, and
Yeah.
instead of doing things that it sounds so hokey to say you believe in, but I'm going to go back to what you said, that you enjoy. It
Yeah.
makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, you know, if you're not having fun doing it, you shouldn't be doing it for very long.
Yeah, agreed.
And Adam and Tanya have been doing, tidbits for 23 years and Take Control for like 10 now. I think we're up to 10 years. So yeah, they've been doing something they love for a while.
Yeah. So tell me what you love about PDFpen 6. How's that for a segue?
Well, there's only 3 big new features, but one of them I think is really kind of very cool. Is they partnered up with an external company so that you can take a PDF and convert it into a Microsoft Word document so it's completely editable if you really need to break it out of a PDF. And that's not as trivial as it sounds. When you look at a PDF, the words are all there and the text is all inside the PDF. But PDFs were never designed to understand things like paragraphs, sentences, the sort of units that word processors actually work with. And so that text information is intermingled in all sorts of bizarre ways with other layouts on the page, because PDF was designed to show you a finished page and not to pull the meaning out of it is tough. So this service actually produces a very credible copy in Microsoft Word of a PDF, depending upon the complexity, of course, of the PDF, but you can get something out of it that you can really work with if you have to. So if you've lost your Word files and all you have left is a PDF of something you wrote 10 years ago, you can get it back out. So I think that that's really very cool. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Usually I would make a snarky comment about Microsoft Word at this point, but the simple fact is that in many worlds, especially the business world, Word still is the de facto standard.
It's the lingua franca, honestly,
and cross-platform, too, not just on the Mac or the PC. Right. It goes everywhere.
Exactly. In fact, I think Microsoft at one point, because of the antitrust settlement, had to actually publish the underpinnings of the doc format that Word files use, or the docx format. So it is actually documented, so you can actually find out how to use those documents in other applications. So it becomes really an interchange format as much as it is a specialized format for Microsoft Word itself. And, because they were the 800-pound gorilla and got that de facto monopoly, it became a de facto standard, and it's now become something that people just exchange regularly. You don't have to use Microsoft Word to use Microsoft Word documents.
Exactly. And now, with this feature, you can use Microsoft Word documents with a PDF without having to use Word too.
Well, you can get the document out of the PDF.
Right.
And then put it into any word processor that understands the docx format or the doc format. I think it exports both, actually, or you can choose.
Michael, you spent a lot more time testing this out. When I got the upgrade to PDFpen 6, though, I threw some PDFs at it, and nothing I was trying to break it with, but the kind of things I felt like I would encounter that I would need to do this with. And I was very impressed at what came out. The one thing that really surprised me, though, is how well it broke out embedded graphics. That I could actually get stuff out that was kind of, you wouldn't have been able to get it out of a PDF any other way that I know of.
Yeah, that is very nice. I think that's one of the great features. Now, I'm now going blank on the others, and I just finished the darn book, so I really should know them all. Auto forms. If you have a PDF that's a form, fill in this line, click that checkbox, but it's not really a form. It's just, you may have OCR'd it in or prepared it in a word processor, so it looks like a form you could print it out and people could check off on paper. But it's not an interactive dynamic form, which you can have in a PDF, where you click a checkbox and it actually checks it, or you can type on a text line and it actually enters the text. Well, if you have that kind of PDF, and millions of people do, this goes through the page of the PDF looking for underscores and little checkboxes and turns them into forms itself, so you can actually prepare a form in Microsoft Word, print it out as a PDF, bring it into PDFpen, and suddenly becomes a dynamic interactive form for you. That's just, that's really super slick.
And we're going to hit the new features and go back on some of the other ones.
By the way, that's PDFpen Pro. All the form stuff is in PDFpen Pro.
Right. Yeah, and we'll get to the versions in a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But this just, whenever I see something that gets to version 6, I get a little cautious, because it's like, all right, are they just trying to find features to throw in to get an upgrade fee? And that's something that Smile doesn't do in general, and certainly not with PDFpen Pro, that they actually keep looking at how people are using their product, what people would like to do with their product, then they go into the back office and do it and roll out a new version that everybody says, wow, that's perfect.
Well, I think that they work the way that a lot of small houses do. Certainly, is you'll hit a major point release, and then you'll fix some bugs. You'll have some small minor releases along the way, and then you say, oh, there's a feature or two we want to add. They're small, and so it becomes the point release .1 or .2. So you'll have PDFpen 5, 5.0.1, 5.0.2, 5.1, which has new features, 5.1.1, which has bug fixes. And eventually, they'll get to a point where they say, well, there's a bunch of new features that we really want to put in. So this really doesn't become that sort of incremental leap. It's a consistently new version. It's new enough where it deserves a new number. Same with Take Control books, which are sort of modeled on the software model, in the sense that we'll write a book, and if we make minor changes to it, fix some typos, add some late-breaking information, it becomes a free upgrade. So Take Control of PDFpen, there may have been a 1.1 version of it at one point. But when you do enough work that it becomes a new edition, you provided enough additional information in the book, then it's a new edition, just like it's a PDFpen 6 or 5, or, Take Control of Paperless Office 2.0, because Joe really rewrote it or something like that. So it's the same sort of model. Some big companies will have it on a calendar schedule because they're looking at cash flow and everything else, and everything is algorithmic. But small companies like Smile, they're actually doing it because, it just seems right. This should be a new version.
Yeah. So what's the third new major feature that
the third major feature is a big cosmetic one, and that is the interface for getting at all the tools has changed. There's now an edit bar at the top of the document page, where you can go between the markup tools and the graphics tools and the editing and the form tools and like that, and you can adjust the properties and everything else. So it's stuff that was formerly hidden in an inspector is now up there on the edit bar, and is much easier to get to. They also moved, I think, the thumbnail track from from the right side of the page to the left side of the page. Why they did that, I'm not sure. I actually didn't ask them, but I had somebody write me at one point saying, is there any way to move it back? I have to move my pointer too far. And I'm going, oh, first world problems.
It's just a couple hundred pixels that way. Big deal.
Get a trackpad. Just
yeah.
But people do what people do. They want what they want. But the edit bar is really new, and it makes it a lot easier to actually get in and edit a PDF, which is the raison d'etre of the program.
Some people are going to say, "Oh, big deal," but it's interesting you bring it up. I was working with a program today that shall remain unnamed. It doesn't have an edit bar or a toolbar of any kind, and so even though I use it with some regularity, you got to go hunting around in the menus. Like, okay, where's this? Where's that? And it would be so nice to be able to just reach up there, click one button or one icon or whatever, and accomplish what you want. And of course, then there are other programs that let you just crowd the daylights out of the edit bar, which that's a personal choice.
That's true. I remember one very funny picture I saw at one point of somebody in an older version of Microsoft Word opening up every bar that they could that appears above the document. So eventually had like a document window about this big, and 8 or 9 different, formatting and control and other bars. And it was, who could use this? But if you want to, you should be able to.
Yeah, well, you get a separate monitor for the bars, and then, you know.
But in the case of the PDFpen edit bar, they've actually conserved space that took up more room in the toolbar and was a lot harder to get to. You couldn't see what was happening all at once. You couldn't see what your choices were without clicking a button, to see, oh, here are my, select tools or and tools you move back and forth between a lot. You don't want to have to click and choose if it's just right there. There, I've got it. I'm done.
Yeah.
So it actually is an ergonomic feature as well as a visual one. And those are the best sorts of improvements you can usually make to a piece of software to make it look a little better and be easier to use at the same time.
What a concept. Michael, I want to move next to the versions because this can get just a little confusing if you're not careful. And I'm just going to leave it at that and let you talk about the different versions of PDFpen 6.
Well, let me take you back in the Wayback Machine to my previous version of the book, Take Control of PDFpen 5, where we had a little box about this big on the page that says where to get PDFpen, and it was like 3 sentences, and you're done. Go here, click there, buy it, download, you're done. Well, now we've got this thing called the Mac App Store. Okay? And there are certain rules for products that can be sold through the Mac App Store. And so Smile now they have PDFpen and PDFpen Pro. But they have to have a version of it that they can sell from their own site and one through the Mac App Store. If you sell it through the Mac App Store, that's the only way you can sell a product that can access iCloud. So if PDFpen wants to provide iCloud support, it has to be sold through the Mac App Store. But there are some things you can't do when you sell through the Mac App Store because of security, sandboxing restrictions, and all sorts of other agreements that you agree to for whatever Apple's reasons are. And so Smile sells their own version from their site that doesn't provide iCloud support, that provides another feature like the ability to upgrade automatically from PDFpen to PDFpen Pro right inside the application. You can't do that on the Mac App Store version. You got to kind of step out and buy a whole new version. You can't upgrade. If you buy a PDFpen, you're stuck with PDFpen. If you want a PDFpen Pro from the Mac App Store, you got to buy it completely. However, flipping it around, even the geometry of this gets complex, Chuck. If you buy PDFpen from the Mac App Store, you can upgrade it through Smile's site to get PDFpen Pro from them, but then you won't have iCloud access. Now, it all depends upon whether you want to have iCloud access. It's kind of cool if you're working on an iPad and you have PDFpen for the iPad as well, or an iPhone. There's a version for the iPhone as well. So you can exchange documents through iCloud. So that can be a win for you, or between 2 different computers that are both have iCloud accounts. PDF on one computer will appear on the other in PDFpen Pro because they'll share the same iCloud space. So that's cool. But you're not limited to iCloud because PDFpen also supports Dropbox, for example. There are a few other sources as well. So you can actually have Dropbox synchronized folders in PDFpen for the iPad. So anything that goes in that folder appears on your iPad version of PDFpen. And on the Mac, of course, Dropbox is just another folder on your hard disk, so you can get to all those files pretty quick. And so there's another way to exchange files as well. So anyway, if you look at it, they have PDFpen and PDFpen Pro from the Mac App Store. So there's 2 versions. They have PDFpen and PDFpen Pro sold from Smile. So now there's 4 versions. Then there's PDFpen for the iPhone and PDFpen for the iPad. So now we've got 6 different versions of PDFpen that you could buy if you wanted. And running on 3 different operating systems: iOS, or Lion, or Mountain Lion. So I had to write a book that explained how to use a piece of software that actually exists in 6 different versions on 3 different platforms. And it's kind of, luckily, they're almost all alike, so they're just differences are really minor. But I had to keep thinking about, is what I'm saying true about all cases? And it's partly a challenge because Apple's made it a bit of a challenge with the rules for the Mac App Store and iCloud. Some of the rules are quite understandable, but it's still can conflict with actual productivity enhancements that a package can give you.
There have been quite a number of changes to the MacVoices group shows over the last few weeks, with more coming. In case you missed it, all of our shows, including MacVoices, Mac Notables, the Mac Jury, and the MacVoices Briefing, now have video versions as well as audio-only versions. You also may not be aware that all of the shows are being consolidated onto the MacVoices website. While the other dedicated sites are still in operation due to some RSS feed conversion delays, they will soon freeze in place, and new shows will only be available on MacVoices.com. So how would you know all this? If you were subscribed to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, you would have had all this information and a lot more, including the new picks section, updates on what's coming on MacVoices, and more. No, it doesn't cost anything, it isn't long or boring, and it isn't full of a lot of spam. It's just what you need to know about our shows, our sponsors, and some of the week's most interesting news and products. To subscribe and be on the inside, just visit the subscription link on the MacVoices website. I hope you'll join our inner circle of friends. Again, it costs nothing. Just go to MacVoices.com and look for the blue subscription box on the right side. As always, thanks for listening to and watching MacVoices. I don't want to dig too much into the feature set just because Gene and Philip and Greg were on MacVoices not a long time ago when PDFpen 6 and PDFpen Pro 6 were announced. I want to ask you, though, how about the structure of the book and how you take us through it. I talk to people about this particular utility, and I hear a couple things. The people that have used PDFpen really love it and swear by it and feel like they can't live without it. And then there are the uninitiated who say, well, it's a PDF. I'm not supposed to do anything with it. I'm just supposed to look at it and read it. And if I want to mark it or do just a couple simple things, well, I can do that in preview. And it's like, well,
absolutely true.
Yeah. Or I can use my oven to do toast, or I can use it to cook a gourmet meal. I mean, it's, it's just not quite the same thing. So how do you help people learn about the power of PDFpen?
Well, the book is structured partly on a task basis. First of all, I have to introduce the tools, obviously. Actually, first of all, after I explain how to get it, which we've just covered, I give a brief history of what PDFs are and what their essential nature is, which explains why you can do some things, you can't do other things, and why something that seems easy is rather complicated, and something else that seems complicated is actually rather easy, because of the way PDFs were designed. Then I introduce you to the tools, because you got to know the tools before you can do anything. And I cover simple tasks like, how do I get a PDF into PDFpen? How do I get out of it? How do I navigate through it? How do I search through it? And then how do I mark it up? What are my various markup capabilities? How do I edit it? Can I OCR it? How do I save my changes out of it? Because I can save a PDF in a lot of different ways, including as a series of individual TIFF files where it's just purely an image, or as a sort of TIFF that contains multiple images, which is a TIFF format that most people don't know exists, but it actually does. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and I talk about how to do tasks like secure your PDF. There are certain features, and this is actually a feature in PDFpen Pro 6, where you can limit what people can do with a PDF. For example, you can read it, but you can't print it. You can read it and you can select text in it, but you can't print it. You can read and print it, but you can't select text in it. You can mix and match various permissions on a PDF, and PDFpen 6 Pro allows you to actually set that up. So I have to explain what those are and how secure or insecure it is. So I go through a bunch of different tasks and explain how and why you would want to use them and what's required. So you don't have to read the book in a linear order, but later chapters kind of do build on previous information.
I'd like your comment about why you would want to do some of it. That's the part that, again, I think the uninitiated don't appreciate. The PDF format is much more robust and much more complex than probably about 90% of the users know or appreciate.
It's true.
It can, because we all do it. I'm working in Word, I'm working in Pages, I'm working in just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so I'm going to need to send to somebody? Well, I'll send a PDF, because I know that, even the most clueless person can get a PDF open.
Yeah, and they can read.
Yeah. And so, don't have to worry about versions or anything like that. It'll open. It may not open with all the capabilities, but the odds are that the person I'm sending it to won't appreciate those capabilities anyway.
Right.
So I think that's one reason that sometimes people need to be led by the hand and shown what you can do. And as I said, and as you said, why you would want to do it. What's the advantage? And as soon as you do that, you can almost see the light bulb come on.
One of the things we actually do a lot in Take Control books is we never try to describe what something does without explaining why you would want to, or why someone would want to. Because a feature without a purpose is pointless. Why talk about it? Oh, good, you can do that. Great. But, if you say, oh, if I do that, then I can do this with it. Then it becomes more interesting. Or, oh, I have this problem to solve, and here are the features that help me solve it. So that's the sort of approach we try to take in our books generally. And if we don't do it in the first draft, Tanya will go through on a developmental edit and say, oh, you really need to explain this and that and why you want to do certain things. There's the last chapter in the book actually covers the iOS versions of it. And one of the sections of that chapter talks about how to get documents in and out of PDFpen for the iPhone or iPad. And there are various ways. There's directly on the iPad, there's OpenIn, there's iCloud, there's using synced folders in Dropbox, there's downloading and uploading from, an FTP site. And so at the beginning of that section, I list, here are the things you can do, and then I go through and I explain how to do them. And Tanya came back, looked at the first draft and said, but which ones, why would somebody use one over the other? And so I had to go back and say, well, I use this one for this and this one for that. And it made it a whole lot better, that simple question she wrote in the margin. But it's something we always have to keep reminding ourselves, explain not just what it does, but why you might want to use it.
And again, we come back to the take control approach of asking those questions. It's tough to come down from your seats on Mount Olympus and talk to the rest of us. And you all do a good job of remembering that you do have to come down from the mountain once in a while and make us appreciate what's going on.
Good editors.
Tanya.
Well, Tanya and others. Kelly Turner, who worked on this, did a fantastic job. She was the lead editor on. Tanya always goes through and does an edit run as well. But I've been a Take Control editor of other people's work too, and I get to stand in that same position. And it's only natural when you're focusing on something, when you're trying to write about and describe it, you can get tunnel vision very quickly. And occasionally you need somebody to go, what? Why? Oh, yeah, I need to get back into that.
Michael, you sort of skipped over something that I wanted to make sure we point out, and we've talked about it on the show before, but the OCR capabilities built in.
Oh, gosh, yes.
To Smile, PDFpen. You would spend a lot of money buying an OCR package that's anywhere near as capable as what they have built in, and that would be a standalone package. Here you get it all. I'm constantly amazed at click that little button, and I don't have to walk away from the computer. And it doesn't have to be my MacBook Pro Retina either. It just grinds through there, and all of a sudden I've got editable, searchable, easily accessible text that I wouldn't have otherwise.
This is one of the really interesting features, and it's been in PDFpen for a while. It was in version 5. And both times I've done this book, I've kind of tormented it. In the 5th edition, I had a low-resolution JPEG from like a 1901 National Geographic, some story about maybe even it was about the Spanish-American War and the telegraph cables and how they were cut and blah blah. And this article, is a photographic reproduction, and it's fuzzy as all get out. And so I scanned it into PDFpen, made it a scanned PDF, and PDFpen, as PDFpen does, OCR'd it. So I had searchable text on this article. And it was like 99% accurate for something, that was hard for me as a human being to actually read. And so that's how I torture tested it in version 5. In version 6, I dug up a scan I made of an old letter that I typed on a Smith Corona typewriter in 1979 that I'd Xeroxed and had a Xerox of a Xerox. And so this was fuzzy as all get out, and I shoved it into PDFpen. And actually the lines in it are even at an angle, making it even more fun. And PDFpen OCR'd it almost perfectly, and so it still looks like that ugly typed paper, but you can select the text and you can correct it if you want, or copy and paste it, and PDFpen will find the underlying text that it hid behind the visual typography, and it's all there. And I think that is just big magic.
Yeah, and you can now get that text out and do something with it if you don't want to manipulate it within the PDF. We just came full circle.
I can take that letter that I typed on a Smith Corona, scanned in, brought into PDFpen, OCR'd, and exported to Word, and suddenly then I can edit in the nicest writer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
an age of miracles and wonder.
Well, it can turn into sort of a Rosetta Stone to help you go from one place to another, because you have that common platform that is PDF, and then you have a program that is this powerful.
What's really funny about it is kind of a strange historical oddity that the PDF format, which was designed to produce a document on the computer screen that was visually as close to being identical as possible to an actual physical document. And we don't care how you do it under the hood. It has to be, appear on the screen at different resolutions. It has to be exact. And so there's a lot of compromises made in the whole PDF architecture that, treat text and drawing commands and all sorts of things as sort of equal citizens. You really can't get at anything very well. It's a terrible archival format from a data point of view. From a human reading point of view, it's a great archive format. From a data mining point of view, it's absolutely terrible. And yet with tools like OCR and PDFpen and what it can do with PDFs and saving it back out as Word, it's become an archival format, even though that's the last thing the PDFs were designed to be. They weren't designed to be data containers in the way that you can make them now with programs like PDFpen. That's very interesting. It's taking a long-term theoretical view.
Well, it's interesting though. If I find even with graphics that if I'm working with a printer of some kind, and I'll say, all right, what format do you need this in? I'll send it over in PDF. Mm-hmm. I could give it to you as an EPS or an Illustrator file. PDF's fine. Mm-hmm. And it is. The results that come back are great. Now, I'm not sure I'd want to do a billboard with a PDF, but on the other hand, I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know.
Even if you're doing a billboard, most people don't see a billboard from close enough to where it matters. If you're sitting close enough to your TV where you can see the dots, you're sitting too close.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
So, it's not billboards are not a near field experience.
And, I'm thinking back on what we've said here, and I'm afraid this may sound like a commercial for PDFpen, and it's really not. I think that you need to discuss PDFpen in the through the lens of the PDF and what it means and how it's used, and then you start to appreciate why it's so important not to use preview for everything. That you want to take just a little bit of time and learn what PDFpen can do. You may not need to do it today, tomorrow, next week, maybe so, or you may realize it's something you hadn't even thought about. Now you can do, and you have the tool to do it.
Mm-hmm. There are tools that I use every single day, and there are tools that I'll use once or twice a week, and tools that I'll use maybe once a month. But even those once-a-month tools, I want them when I want them, and I want them to work. PDFpen actually falls more into like the every couple of days. I may need to do something with a PDF that I find interesting, because most of the time I'm writing, so I don't really need to get into PDFs. But occasionally I'll get one and I'll need to do something with it. Tax season, PDFpen came in enormously handy, because I had to do PDFs of various signature documents to send to my accountant and back. And PDFpen has this lovely ability of putting your signature on a form. And so, he'd say, oh, you need to sign this and fax it to me. And going, well, I don't have a fax machine, but I can I can make it into a PDF and sign it and email it to you. And how's that? And he goes, ugh.
He probably first said, what? Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, no, he's seen me do a few times, and he knows just how geeky I am. So he goes, oh, yeah, well, you do the thing you do.
Yeah. So what other features, because I admit I probably don't tap everything. I'd love to tell you I'm an expert in PDFpen, but I'm not. What other features are in there that you think people should know about that aren't necessarily new, but that are really useful and perhaps overlooked?
Well, one of the things, it depends on what you do with PDFs, but one of the things I do is mark them up, because if I'm doing a book for a publisher other than Take Control, usually I'll get page proofs back in the form of a PDF. Oh, good, now this is what the book actually looks like, because I've been wondering, so I had to write it in Word, and it looks like the final product. So I'll get these PDFs back, and I'll have to mark them up, and I could kind of do it in preview, but PDFpen is more flexible, because PDFpen with iCloud support lets me work either on my Mac or get to it from my iPad. So I can lie on the sofa, and have a beer while I'm marking it up. But the other cool thing about it is that aside from just the general, you can highlight things, you can put margin notes, which most PDF programs like Preview can do. PDFpen has a library of proofreading marks. Insert here, close up, make this caps, underline this. All the proofreading marks that proofreaders actually use, insert symbols and like that. So I can actually really mark up a page proof, in a way that looks professional, rather than just kind of writing in the margin, oh, this should be italics. You can actually say, ital, circle, the way a proofreader would do it on an actual printed galley proof.
I did not know about that feature. Obviously, I'm not an editor.
And I actually have a chapter in the book about not only how to use it, but if you're going to be exchanging a document for people to comment on, here's how you arrange that sort of thing, the human engineering of it, which goes outside of the realm of PDFpen, but without PDFpen, you wouldn't be doing it in the first place.
See, there's another example of something built in I didn't even know was there, and it's there for a very specific audience, but it's probably a target audience.
I think of I used to teach English composition in my past. I'm coming out now. I'm a former English comp teacher. And, if students were submitting their papers to me in PDF form, I would be using that feature all the time.
Good point. Yeah, I can, and trying to do that, am I right? Trying to do that in Word or in some other programs would not be particularly easy.
Well, the thing about doing something in Word is, once you start making changes and like that, you can you can use the track changes features, and you can use margin notes and stuff like that. All word processors, intelligent ones these days, give you that. But it's not quite the same thing as leaving the original document visually intact and putting the margin notes on top of this stuff so they know what needs to be changed without actually changing their stuff, or without they're saying, oh, you changed something you didn't say you changed it, so how can you blame me for something you did? Well, if you're marking it up as though it's a piece of paper, you don't get that from students. Trust me, students will try anything to get away from taking responsibility. It's the one skill they learn before they get into class.
Yeah, I think I must deal with some of your students in business now. But
well, I was a former student, and so I had those skills myself, so I could recognize them very quickly.
I never did anything like that.
All right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for the thunderbolt.
Yes, in a parallel universe.
Yes, exactly. So you basically take, as you said, a task-based approach to this instead of trying to walk us through the menus and dig down and find all the features.
Yeah, a feature tour is really an interesting way to describe any sort of product. You have to think about how people are going to use it and then arrange your book so it makes sense to the people who are going to be using it to do something real. Software doesn't exist in a vacuum. Software is tools. You have to explain what the tools are for. Why would I use this kind of file instead of that one? Why do I use a chisel this way rather than just to pry open a paint can? Oh, I've ruined the chisel.
Well, and why do you need a set of screwdrivers that has 24 different sizes, shapes, and kinds? I just need to tighten this screw in a hinge on my door, and if you don't have the right one, you may be able to fake it a little bit, but sooner or later you're going to get caught.
There are no completely universal tools except maybe duct tape.
Good point. Good point. So how much is this book? Since it is a new one, there are no upgrades from previous editions, are there?
Well, for people, I'm not sure how far back it goes, but for people who bought Take Control of PDFpen 5 a few months back, I'm not sure how far back it goes, they get a 50% discount on an upgrade. So they only pay half price for it. So there is that sort of upgrade path. The cost, now this is interesting. Ordinarily, when Take Control books grow beyond a certain length, they'll become $15. Like they're over 150 pages. $15 seems a fair price because now it's starting to put a huge amount of work into wrangling that manuscript. Take Control of PDFpen actually topped out at 177 pages, but we're selling it at the $10 price point that we did the first book for a couple of reasons. One, we don't want to charge people a huge amount of money for what is really, look at a specialty product. But secondly, Take Control of PDFpen on the iPad itself is only like $15, and I think on the iPhone it's like $5. So we don't want to price a book more than the product. And, if you sell it at a slightly lower price, but you sell it to more people, you make it up in volume. So it's the short answer, it's $10.
It's $10, and that's. I always say this, and I'm sorry, folks, if it's a repeat, but what you're basically doing when you buy something like this is you're hiring Michael to teach you the program from a practical standpoint. You're not asking him to sit there and rewrite the manual. He takes you through and shows you things you can do with it, things you probably want to do with it, and how to accomplish it. So. $10. I mean, you can't hire anybody for much of anything for $10 an hour, let alone all the time it took to put this book together.
Well, it's not a huge amount of money for the amount of time that you would spend trying to figure it out on your own, certainly. But we also just want to make it fair. The fact of the matter is, we're not consuming paper, so there's no physical resources involved. We don't have to, pay for warehousing costs for the books or transportation to the bookstores and like that. So. Something for the same price you would a hardcover book doesn't seem to make much point. We want to make these things affordable, but we also want to make it possible to do things like offer point upgrades to the book. If next week Smile comes out with a really interesting fix or a change to the way PDFpen works in one particular facet of its operation, I could revise the book. We could do Take Control of PDFpen 6 1.1. And everybody who bought version 6 gets the upgrade for free. You can't really do that with a print book. So
yeah.
So we try to provide both value and a low cost and extra features.
In your comments, I'm going to take that little snippet of video about, we don't consume paper, we don't have distribution costs and all that, and send it to all the major printers and say, see, but that's a whole other discussion.
Well, taking that into account, I also know from the print publishing world, those costs are not a huge proportion of a print book's cost, actually. It's maybe 20, 25%, maybe 30%. But the fact is what really costs is editorial staff, cover design, publicity, rights clearance. There's all sorts of things that publishers really bring to the table that make books not free simply because they're digital. That said, selling a digital book for $30 when the hardcover is $30, makes me want to slap somebody. Come on, take at least 20% off because you're saving that much, certainly.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. And that too is a great point. I'm glad you brought it up because I was being a little smart, but the people that say the publishers bring something to the table, you just made it very clear, some very specific examples what does cost. But also acknowledge the fact that there are some savings going on here that, I begrudge nobody making any money. Everybody should make some money for the kind of effort they put in.
Yeah.
But then, don't say, gee, I don't know why we don't sell more when you aren't taking advantage of the opportunities to sell it for a little less. And like you said, you make it up in volume.
Well, yeah, and companies like Take Control and other small publishers, and there are more than you might think, don't go into business because they want to become multimillionaires and buy a secret island lair, where they can slowly take over the world. They do it because they're passionate about the kind of books they want to do, and they want to make enough to keep doing it and put food on the table and maybe live reasonably comfortably. But that's about it. Artisanal publishers like Take Control are in it for a living, not for wealth. They're in for a living.
Yeah. Well, folks, this is Take Control of PDFpen 6, which covers all the iterations of PDFpen that we talked about. It's a big, bright orange cover. You can't miss it on the TakeControlBooks.com website. Go get it. I promise you, you will find out about things that you can do to PDFs with PDFpen 6 that you could not do and didn't know you could do before you read it. Michael, thanks for the time. It's always a pleasure. I know you'll be back soon with something else.
Let's hope, because I live to write and I write to live.
On that note, folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices, the talk of the Mac community. Please check our website. We'll have links to the book, to everything else Michael does. You'll be able to sign up for our newsletter, our weekly newsletter, so you get a peek behind the scenes at MacVoices, and just stay in touch with us in general. Until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and for more Apple, Mac, and tech-related shows, including MacVoices, Mac Notables, the Mac Jury, and the MacVoices Briefing. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com.